Hey guys, how's it going? It's Matt here for the Matchim Experience. This is probably the third or fourth time I've recorded this podcast. Reason being, I am a perfectionist. I keep going back and trying to re-record what I talk about. Now, why, you might ask, why do I keep re-recording what I want to talk about? I think the reason is because, number one, my sentences, I find, don't come out very coherently sometimes. I'll start talking and then I'll realize, you know what I just said doesn't really freaking make sense. And another one might be just that I don't know what I'm talking about. Not so much as the subject, but the general flow of the podcast. I'll start talking, I'll lose where I'm going, and I'll start talking. So I'm just going to try to riff it this time and try to keep it as concise as possible. And the first question is what I'm going to ask myself so that I may answer is, what have I learned as of lately? I can think of 3 different points that I've learned that I'd like to share with you guys. And just so you can know, if you're in the audio version, I am currently driving my car right now, so bear with me here. The first thing I learned was perfection is something to be avoided. Whereas, at the same time, perfectionism is a good trait to have. Interesting. The reason why perfectionism is to be avoided is it can lead to nothing ever happening, nothing ever being produced. There's an old saying that says something along the lines that an imperfect product that hits the shelves is a lot better than a perfect product that never gets released, right? Oftentimes I find myself, and other people you'll get caught up in trying to make something perfect, so much so that nothing ever gets done, right? If you never think what you've created is good enough and you want to keep redoing it until it's perfect, this can become a crutch. This can become an excuse in itself so that you never have to post. So one way to combat this is just do it, just post, just don't think about it. There's a delicate balance here, of course. You know, as Aristotle said, there's a golden mean. What is the perfect balance? I remember there's a quote, it's really easy to be angry, but it's really hard to be angry for the right duration, at the right direction, for the right intensity, at the right time, right? So what is the balance of perfectionism versus just getting shit out there? And I really think that you want to lean on the side of just getting stuff out there. So in this post right now, I'm going to post this podcast pretty much no matter what I say. I might do a little bit of editing later. That's just to make a better product. But speed and actually delivering is something that's important to consider and to actually try to aim for. The next thing that I want to talk about is a logical tool that Charlie Munger taught me in Poor Charlie's Almanac. And it's one that's been very helpful in my life to figuring out problems, and I think it could help you too. And what is that problem? It comes from math, and it's invert. You want to figure out a problem? What is the opposite? Invert it, and you'll see maybe what the real result is. Now, let me explain this a little bit more so that you can actually get an idea what I mean. Let's start with an example. Let's say, for example, I asked you the question, how do you live the good life? How can I live a good life? Well, that's a pretty hard question to live. There's a lot of different things that you might have to do to live a good life. But let's invert. How do you live a bad life? What's the opposite of a good life? A bad life. How do you live a bad life? Well, I can tell you a bunch of things really quickly. I'll give you one example from Poor Charlie's Almanac. Charlie Munger said the number one thing you want to do if you want to live a life of misery, be unreliable. So we can take from that, okay, so if being unreliable is going to help us or lead us to live what I would consider the bad life, to live the good life, it might be beneficial to live a good life, it might be good to be a reliable person. Show up and do whatever it says you're going to do. That's pretty reasonable. Another example could be, how do you live the bad life? Have everybody in your life hate you. Be really poor. Be under financial duress all the time. These are all surefire ways to make your life a little bit harder and lead you to live the bad life. And then that's obviously going to help you Help direct yourself into how can you live a good life. Don't be under financial duress. Have some financial freedom. Have friends and family around you that support you and love you. You know, things like that. What is the other thing? Oh, and then the other kind of thing I've been learning is just watch out who you listen to. If you ask a question right now to almost, not anybody, but almost anybody, you'll get an answer. Now, whether or not that answer is right or wrong, or if that answer is helpful or unhelpful, I don't know. But you'll get an answer. And it really surprises me just how often people will they'll just start talking. Let me tell you an example. Let's say if you ask any of your friends for relationship advice right now, even if they've never been in a relationship or have always had relationship troubles, you'll probably get an answer back telling you what you should do. What? It amazes my mind because, sorry, I just saw, never mind. It amazes me that people will just start talking. How is it that people are just trying to answer such difficult questions without even taking the time to consider, do they know the answer? If you ask me a question, I hope that I don't fall into the unconscious mind and do that. Because it's I don't know what it is. Maybe it's some sort of primal desire that everybody wants to feel important. So just starting to talk might make you still feel important because you're helping somebody who's asking a question. But very rarely do people say they do not know the answer to your question. What else? So the big thing about this is you want to be careful of who you listen to. Who should you listen to? People who have done or have actually achieved the result that you're looking for. If you're asking somebody, or you're looking for somebody to ask, how do I live a life where I have healthy relationships and have a loving wife or husband, and you want to have a happy marriage that lasts 40 years, look for a practitioner, man. Don't look for somebody selling you a course that has never done it themselves. Look for somebody who themselves, they have a happy marriage, happy relationship to figure out how you can have a happy relationship. Be careful of who you listen to. I've found lately, the more I've kind of analyzed the result or analyzed the advice I've gotten, and then I've analyzed who I've gotten it from, and then what results that advice has typically led me to, the more I've realized, man, I've been listening to the wrong people. If you want to get, good advice, listen to people who actually have done what you're looking for. Let's go a step further. If you want to learn how to make money, don't ask people or don't listen to people who haven't made a lot of money. If somebody's selling you a course on how to make money and they themselves have not implemented the very steps inside the course, it's a dangerous place to look for your advice, man. It's not a place that's going to guarantee your success. I had a thought there. Let me just give me a second here and I'll think of it. Ty Lopez in the 67 Steps. One thing he says is that when you're getting advice from somebody or you're trying to emulate or copy what somebody else has done and you're getting mentored by them, you use this as a rule of thumb, but you're only going to get 10% of the results they have. So if your goal is to make $1 million, you can't listen to a guy who's made $1 million. You're only going to make 100K, bro, according to this, rule of thumb. Listen to the guy who's made $10 million. Find a guy who's made $10 million. If you want to make $100 million, well, you got to find somebody who's made $1 billion. It's possible. You can find people who've made $1 billion. They've written books. I'll give you a bunch of examples. The owner of the Houston Rockets, he's been on Tom Bilyeu's podcast. Do you know the advice that he gave out on that podcast? He talked to Ty Lopez. Do you know what he told Ty Lopez as advice? Charlie Munger has a book written of all the speeches he's given. Have you heard some of Charlie Munger's speeches? Do you know what he says? Do you know the advice? If your goal is to make a lot of money, maybe we should go to the top. But no, what ends up happening is we don't go to the top and we go to the middle or we go to the bottom. We go to people around us, and very often, again, we just don't realize that the people around us might not be the best people to ask for advice. And it sucks to say, because generally these are the people that are your friends. You have some sort of social connection with them, and that's kind of what you want. But no, we should more often not listen to the people that are around us and go to people who are at the top if we want different results. Now, if you're trying to make friends or just kind of socialize, it might be a different story. It might just be like, okay, we'll just talk to who's around you because they're your friends. Yeah. Other than that, one other thing that I wanted to touch on was just the where this podcast is going. So my goal for this podcast, of course, is going to be still to, number one, teach and learn. I want to be able to teach others what I learn. Now, if you're following what I just said, it's probably not going to be the best thing for you if I'm teaching you because I haven't achieved that great result. But here's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to continue to take the learnings of others and just rehash them for you guys. That's going to help me, so it further cements them into my own mind. Helps you because you can hear them maybe for the first time. But I'm also going to be reaching out a lot now to different kind of experts in their own respective fields. Now, the question becomes, what experts am I going to be reaching out towards? To start, I think I'm going to be going towards the academics and to the universities. Reason for this, university professors, guys, they're a lot easier to get into contact with than you and me might have guessed. I emailed maybe, ambulance going off. I emailed approximately 10 professors yesterday, and I got a reply back from 5. 2 of them said yes right away. One of them said yes in February. It's December right now, so I got 2 months to wait for that guy. And 2 of them said no. They were a little camera shy. No worries, guys. But the thing I want you guys to realize is I only emailed 10, and I got 2 that said yes. Gary Vaynerchuk, one of his recent Instagram posts, he said, you guys should be living in the Instagram DMs doing business connections. Give value. Give meaningful messages. Don't just spam. But what you'll find is maybe 2 out of 30 people will respond, and that's how you start growing. So from now, for the next few days, I'm pretty much just going to be cold calling businesses to get them to, or business owners. I'm going to be cold calling university professors, pretty much anybody who I think is knowledgeable on any certain topic, to come on the podcast so I can interview them. And that's, you're going to get the teachings from the horse's mouth. Then maybe afterwards I might take some time to reflect on what they said and then expand upon what they said, relating it to other teachings that I might have found from other places to just to show how all the ideas interconnect. But yeah. And then what else? There was something else I wanted to talk about. The last thing, I'm just kind of talking until I reach my home. Funny enough, this car I'm sitting in right now, I'm about to sell. Hopefully the guy buys it. I'm selling it for like $1,000. It's a pretty good price for a car. I mean, you've seen me drive. I don't know if I actually posted a video on this YouTube here before of myself driving the car, but this car is pretty good. Hopefully somebody buys it. The thing I was going to talk about was questions. There's a quote. I don't know who said it, but you live your life to the degree you can ask good questions. You want to live a better life? Ask better questions. Now, this kind of sounds weird at first. Why is that? Robert Kiyosaki put it really eloquently when he says, a statement closes the mind, whereas a question opens the mind. Let's test this hypothesis. I don't know how to say it. A question opens the mind, but a statement closes the mind. Let's make a statement. That cat is black. That's a statement. Let's make a question. Why is that cat black? I don't know. Do you notice the difference? One of them demands a response. When you think of it, questions, fundamentally, it's just thinking. What is that noise? See, my car's making noises, which kind of scares me. Questions, when you're asking questions, really all that's happening is you're thinking and you're asking yourself to continue the thought process, to get somewhere with that thought process, to make it usable. So if you ever find yourself stuck in life, I suggest you examine the questions you're asking. See if you can ask better questions. One little caveat here. Not all questions are born equal. You know, there's a saying, no, there's no stupid questions. True. But not all questions are equal. Some questions are more useful than others. Let me tell you an example. The question of, why am I so poor? Why am I so poor? What a disempowering question. It implies that you're poor. It's not as useful as, how can I make myself rich? Okay? Why am I so poor versus how can I make myself rich? You live your life to the degree that you can ask yourself good questions. That's all I have for you for now. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube, leave a like. Do whatever positive interaction you can if you had a positive experience. All right, guys. I truly do hope you all have a good day. And bye-bye.